but that is completely against what the modern feminist dogma dictates. When these women try to date these men, well, keyword is try, it goes nowhere. And it goes nowhere because these men aren't interested in liberal feminists. They will sleep with them, of course. They'll get their sex. They'll fold them up like origami and get their thrills. But they will never pursue a serious relationship with them, much less marriage, because they don't see them as marriage material. That drives these women crazy. How dare these men not wife them up? How dare they not pursue a serious relationship with them? Hello, everyone. I took a week off for vacation, but I am back and ready to get some more content out for all of you. Today, I will revisit one of my favorite liberal YouTube channels, Diary of a CEO. The last time I reacted to Scott Galloway, who was on, who did nothing but blame men for their loneliness and dating issues. Let's see if anything has changed with his new guest, psychologist Dr. K.
What have you seen happening between men and women right now?
Women, I think, don't need men as
Okay.
much as they used to. And I think this is in part because of this whole sexual revolution and the pill and the feminism and all these things, which has tremendous upsides.
18 seconds in. 18 seconds. And it's clear we're still dealing with the same liberal female apologist from last time. Who is actually getting the benefits from feminism and the sexual revolution? Obviously, it isn't men. But are women really in a better position than they were 50 years ago? Are women overall happier and more content with dating now than they were before 50 years ago? No. Are women overall happier and more content with marriages now than they were 50 years ago? Also no. And most importantly, are women overall happier and more content with men now than they were 50 years ago? Absolutely not. But we can't let that real narrative spread. No. So these institutions, these educational institutions, which are completely controlled by women and simpy men, we've got to protect the women. They create these studies that gaslight everybody, absolutely everybody, into believing that single women are happier. You know what? Let's take a moment and let's see what Google AI has to say about this situation. I'm really curious to see if women are actually happier. I'm curious to actually see what this survey says. Give me a moment. Let me pull it up here. I asked Google AI why single women tend to be happier than single men. Let's have a good laugh, because we know we will, at the garbage that it spews out. All right, what do we have here? Friendship-based support. Women are more likely to have a diverse and well-maintained network of friends and family, and they are more skilled at using these connections for emotional support. This offers a vital buffer against loneliness that men often lack. That sounds great in theory, but what happens the moment that a woman does something that the tribe doesn't agree with? They turn on her. They will tear her up. All these social networks that women have do is push them into following the hive mind. In these environments, women rarely think on their own. What was it? There's a video from Psych Hacks, Dr. Orion Taraban, that says women want what other women want. Let's see. Male reliance on partners. Many men, especially in heterosexual relationships, tend to rely heavily or even exclusively on their female partners for emotional and social connections. As a result, when single, they are more likely to experience loneliness and have fewer people to turn to. This is a flat out lie. Flat out lie. Most men are quite content to be on their own. They enjoy the peace and quiet that comes with solitude. I enjoy that. Men don't need to be surrounded by people constantly. Why do you think women have to build these massive groups of people around them? They seem to always have dozens, if not hundreds, of people around them physically or virtually because they want it. They need it. They absolutely crave constant attention and validation like a damn drug. Now, men, would they like a good woman in their lives? Of course. But if that isn't an option, men do plenty well on their own. Escape from relationship burdens. Single women also report greater satisfaction because they are free from the disproportionate burdens often placed on women in heterosexual relationships. Oh, the humanity. Let's just stop it there. Reduced domestic labor. In many heterosexual partnerships, women perform a greater share of the household chores and emotional labor. Singlehood allows them to reclaim this time and energy for themselves. Prioritized sexual needs. Some research suggests that women's sexual pleasure is often deprioritized in heterosexual relationships. Oh my, so terrible. Single women, in contrast, report higher sexual satisfaction as they can focus on their own needs without pressure to prioritize a partner. Of course, themselves. What is this really saying? Women, they don't want any responsibility. God forbid they put any effort into a relationship. They don't want to do housework. They don't want to provide emotional support to their boyfriends or husbands. And they don't want to have kids, much less raise them. That isn't shown here, but we know that. So basically, they want to be completely free of any obligations whatsoever, while still demanding similar obligations from men. Yet, that's supposed to make them happier? That is some screwed up logic, and anyone that stops and thinks about it for a second realizes that makes absolutely no sense. There is one last section here. Let's read this. Financial and professional independence. The growing financial independence of women has also made singlehood a more viable and desirable option. Of course it has. Decline of economic incentives. The traditional economic incentive for women to marry has lessened as their incomes have grown closer to men's. Many women find it preferable to pay a singles tax of higher living cost rather than feel financially dependent. God forbid that. Less to gain from marriage. Psychologists note that financially, single men have more to gain from partnering up than single women. That is funny. That is funny. Really? Really? They think that that's the case, or they're trying to tell us this? This is funny because this is exactly what men have been saying about women for years, about relationships. We say it and we get harassed for being losers, for being incels and creepers. But it's okay for women to say it, and they say it in almost every single video, every single thing you see out there. The standards, the double standards between men and women, I've said it all the time. It's ridiculous. It's like a man can say something and it is the end of the world. Quick, let's cancel him, let's destroy him. A woman says it, oh my goodness, she is such a powerful boss bee. We need to bow down before her because she has such wisdom. Oh my God, this is just absolutely disgusting. Anyhow, now that I've gone on this complete and total rant and just completely thrown the video out the window, Let's at least get back to it and let's hear a few more things of what our lovely Dr. K and our host here have to say.
I think that women and men are having less sex, they're getting married less. Men's attitude towards women has become a little bit more resentful in certain pockets of the internet. They perceive relationships with the other sex to be disposable more than ever before.
Men's view women?
I would say both. And I think in
Okay.
part that's because of dating apps, just the perception of choice.
Okay.
The feeling that if you don't work out, there's another 1,000 people on my phone that I could give a shot to. I think the equation of a relationship, when we think about the investment it takes for it to work and what you get from it, people now perceive the equation not to be worth it.
Okay, I think there's a lot of great stuff there. So,
Oh, the gaslighting manic continues in this clip. The host implies that only men are resentful of women. However, he completely ignores or just chooses to not talk about the fact that women are just as resentful, if often not more, than men. He needs to stop lying and acting like only men behave that way. Of course, it is harder to find examples because of how the argument is framed. When they talk about men's opinions towards women, it's treated as hate and misogyny. Ooh, so terrible. When women talk about their hatred of men, they mask it. They mask it by using fancy words such as emotional labor and heterofatalism. I just covered an article about heterofatalism. I'll link it in the description below, which is a fancy word for black pill doomer femcells. Good luck, however, getting mainstream coverage of women's rage, of women's hatred of men, though, because every time it's out there, it will be covered up as somehow being justified. Now, as for disposable relationships, who gets endless attention from the opposite sex on dating apps? Of course, it's women. Who gets hundreds and hundreds of matches in a day, even if you're a below average woman? Women. Who end up with paralysis analysis because they have so many choices on dating apps that they just don't know what to do? Women, women, women. A man is lucky, seriously, to get 1 or 2 matches a week. And that doesn't even matter if he's actually attracted to these women or not. Show me some evidence, any evidence whatsoever, that most men online are treating relationships as disposable. How about most men in general treating relationships as disposable? Men have to first be talking to women to have their relationships be disposable, and they can't even get that far. But that's no excuse for men feeling negative towards women, right? It's no excuse whatsoever. But guess what? Men have every right to be annoyed, frustrated, and at times even angry. There's a video from a few years back that used statistics to show mathematically that most men have almost a 0% chance of getting a match online. To quote Judge Judy, "Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Stop trying to manipulate the numbers and gaslight men and women all over the world that this type of thing isn't true, because it's all a lie."
so if I was an 18-year-old
Yeah.
and I came to you, and let's say I'm your nephew or something like that, and I'm like, Steven, fully formed adult, handsome man in relationship, I'm struggling to date.
Yeah.
What should I do?
You want me to give you advice?
Yeah.
Fuck. I think you should work on yourself.
Okay.
And especially as an 18-year-old man, because I think you need to, especially at that age, create some advantages. And so working on yourself could be learning, reading, going to the gym, building up the ability to provide for someone else and to protect somebody else. That's kind of really where I'd start. And again, that's biased because that's what I did at 18 years old.
I'll give credit where credit is due. This advice is good. Almost. Baby boys are born with no societal value whatsoever. I agree 100% that it's sad, but it's a reality. A man's only value is what he accomplishes, with his hands or with his brain. Ideally, he should be building himself up from the moment he is born. However, once he becomes a legal adult, which is usually 18 in most parts of the world, that is often the first time that he is completely responsible for himself. He needs to improve his mind, his body, his spirit. He needs to learn to make wealth, and he needs to improve his status. The world will give him absolutely nothing whatsoever, so that's his only choice. Otherwise, he's going to be a homeless bum on a street corner. Society, it actually doesn't mind at all if men improve themselves. It really doesn't. But there is a catch. There is an important catch. They allow it if a man is doing it to attract a woman. If a man is busting his butt, breaking his back, sometimes literally to care and for protect for a woman, then that's okay. If not, if they're doing it for themselves, then it's selfish and it must be squashed at all cost. 50 to 100 years ago, there was an unspoken contract between men and women. Men would go out into the world and do the hard work of making money. He would use that money to provide for, hopefully, his wife with safety, with security, and convenience. In return, she provided him with children, which hopefully she was raising, and she provided him with a legacy. She also maintained the household and offered him intimacy. Both sides provided something to the relationship, and they gained a lot in return. Was it perfect? No. There were problems with it. Some men exploited it. Some women were taken advantage of. We know that. But overall, for the vast majority of men and women, it worked well for thousands and thousands of years. But feminism, it changed that contract. Today, women still want men to provide resources and security to them. They also want men to be their emotional support and provide this laundry list of other requirements that, for most men, are confusing and conflicting. Those same women, however, have no interest, absolutely no interest whatsoever in fulfilling any part of that old contract. Many don't even try to make themselves attractive or care for their bodies. They want nothing to do whatsoever with having or raising kids. No legacy for that man. Maintaining the household is unpaid labor, although many women wouldn't have a clue how to cook or clean, even if they had to, if their life depended on it. As for intimacy, rather than willingly offering it to their husband, they hold it over his head, demanding that he grovel to her desires to get it, or she'll give it out to some Chad down the street. This is what society wants from men. Of course, it would never get said on a liberal channel such as this, because they'd lose their sponsors and they'd immediately be canceled.
Let's say I do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, hey, I'm on this growth journey. And I'm sure you've encountered this, and there are going to be people in the audience who are like, the reason they're watching this podcast is because they're trying to do that. They're still not getting dates, right? Yeah. It's still hard to find a girlfriend. Then what do you have to say to them?
I would assume that the reason it's not working is because they're not in this frame of mind to find love.
What in the hell does he mean by, you're not in the right frame of mind to find love? When I first heard him say this, I replayed it a few times because I genuinely thought I was hearing this guy wrong. To quote Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it? You haven't even met anyone. So how in the heck does love, or a lack of it, have any impact whatsoever? I thought about it, and I think I figured it out. I think I figured out what mumbo jumbo he's pushing out. It's stupid, it's very stupid, but I'll try to explain it. Then I'll tell you what he's really saying, what he's really trying to convey using code. For argument's sake, let's assume that this is an issue of love with men. I know, even saying it sounds absolutely stupid, but humor me for a minute. Men don't understand how to give love or receive love. Okay, I've heard this talking point pushed by mainstream media before, so it doesn't really surprise me much that this psychologist is pushing it too, trying to use the same old stuff. If men don't understand love, who is primarily responsible for that? Who should be teaching young men, really if not all men, about love and relationships? This isn't a trick question. It should be their parents, right? Of their mother and their father, who is more responsible for teaching that expectation of love? Again, not a trick question. It should be the mother. Almost everybody, I would hope, has heard the phrase or several phrases about a mother's love. It's unconditional, it's unbreakable, and it's forever. It's about sacrifice. It's about setting aside her wants and her needs for her children. Does that sound like a modern woman? Does that sound even close to a modern woman? Of course not. Modern women are not about sacrificing for others. They care about themselves. They care about freedom and doing what they want without responsibilities to anyone but themselves. Do they demonstrate anything close, even remotely close to what unconditional love should be? No. So, if this was really the problem that men were experiencing it, then wouldn't the good doctor be implicating women, specifically mothers, for their failures to raise their boys properly? Of course, we know that he would never do that. So what he's spouting is just garbage. Also, with women initiating 70% of the divorces, they are often kicking the fathers completely out of the picture. So any responsibilities that the father would have to teach love and relationships to his children are not there because he physically can't do that in most cases because the woman moves out of state or she takes action to prevent him from having any reasonable opportunity to do that. So this lies on the mothers fully, if you were to believe what this Dr. K has to say. Let's discuss what he really means. The right frame of mind is another feminist code word. When men better themselves significantly, they also expect, rightfully so, better from the women that they're dating. Not a surprise. We're not talking about a better career, however, more money, more intelligent, or more empowered. These men want attractive, agreeable women that can provide them children. That's completely reasonable, but that is completely against what the modern feminist dogma dictates. When these women try to date these men, well, keyword is try, it goes nowhere. And it goes nowhere because these men aren't interested in liberal feminists. They will sleep with them, of course. They'll get their sex. They'll fold them up like origami and get their thrills. But they will never pursue a serious relationship with them, much less marriage, because they don't see them as marriage material. That drives these women crazy. How dare these men not wife them up? How dare they not pursue a serious relationship with them? But they can't call these men out directly for having unreasonable standards. And the reason is because men would just throw it back in their faces. So they create yet another buzzword to make it sound better, to make it sound like men are just failing even more than they already are, at least according to them. But does it work? Barely. A few men are falling for it and get turned into simps, but most men, at least most men today, are recognizing the female stupidity and they're walking away from it. The old tricks that women used to do to enslave men in this way, they just no longer work. I planned to react to more of the video, but I went on quite a rant instead. That's fine, because I had things I wanted to say. Things that are not popular, but that are true. Things that need to be said. I'll pick up the reaction in a future video, so yay, more content. What's the takeaway for men? Learn the code words that feminists use. Understand how they are designed to manipulate you, and learn to avoid that manipulation. When you can't be controlled, that is when you have true power, and that can't be taken away. As always, like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.